I can remember when I was a small child. I was not the bravest kid in the world, especially at night. And at times I would hear something go bump, or I would think I heard something, and my heart would start pounding, my skin would go clammy, and I just knew that the world as I knew it was about to end. Some monster lurked beneath my bed, and it would have me for a midnight snack before the dawn broke. Often these fear attacks would come when I stayed at my grandmother's house. It was a big old house with lots of creaks and groans, especially at night as the house cooled. Now my Mom Nellie was a big woman. She was strong. She spoke her mind at all times. But she could also be very gentle and kind. And if I called out to her at night, she wouldn't tell me to be quiet and go back to sleep. She wouldn't yell at me. Mom Nellie would get out of her bed and walk to mine and take me in her arms. She would hold me until my fear was gone, and she would say to me until I really believed it, "It'll be all right. Don't be afraid. Everything will be all right." And you know what? It was. It was all right. And I didn't have any reason to be afraid. For the arms of love held me tight, and I knew that I was safe regardless of what happened. I knew that all was well. But as I've grown older, I've often not been so sure about this. My grandmother passed away over 40 years ago, and her arms are not here to hold me anymore, to comfort me at night. Of course, that stopped several years before she died. But the fears and anxiety of the world today are also much greater than some imaginary monster under the bed. And I've wondered at times if there was anything that could take away the troubling thoughts that we all face in today's very grown-up world. The specters of poverty and war are with us still, and when they rear their ugly heads, they trample down the innocent in their paths. The children of Afghanistan, the children of Ethiopia, the children of Palestine and Israel, they are victims of monsters far more powerful than any I have faced. Famine still strikes, and though you may not see them on your television screen during the evening news, there are thousands, even hundreds of thousands of children with distended bellies, sad eyes, flies circling around them, wondering if they will have anything to eat. The mothers, too, are weak and dehydrated. They can't even cry for their sons and daughters. Crime, murder, assault, rape, they plague our nation. And simple stealing doesn't even merit a report on the news unless it's accompanied by something much worse like a shooting. And of course there is disease. Over 300,000 deaths from COVID-19 in our nation, with another 2,000 or more average each day of late. How many millions of people in our nation, let alone the world, have suffered the loss of those that they love this past year to disease? Ours is a nation where a young man can be clubbed to death by a gang of teens outside a church in Philadelphia. Our young mother can watch as she rolls her car into a lake, drowning her two small children. As a former foster parent, I can tell you that many children are deserted and even abused mentally, physically, and sexually by their own parents or other relatives. Over 1 million children today are in foster care or some sort of group home. There are no safe havens in such a world as that. Even home is not safe from the evil around us. Can anything ever be all right again? There have been times, more than a few, when I have doubted. But then in the times of my doubt, I remember my grandmother. I remember her words. And they comfort me some. But even more than the comfort they bring, I find comfort in the words of Scripture. In particular, I remember the words spoken to the main characters in the Christmas story. When the angel appeared to Joseph, when he appeared to Mary to announce her pregnancy, when he appeared to the shepherds in the field, one of the first things the angel always said was, "Be not afraid." Don't be afraid. I have good news for you. In other words, it's going to be all right. Don't let your worries, your anxieties, your fears overcome you or paralyze you. Everything will be all right. All will be well. Just wait and see. get strength and comfort from these words and these stories because when I think about it, I realize that the world today is not so different from the world 2,000 years ago. If there was ever a troubled time and place, it was first century Palestine, a land occupied by a foreign army. And anyone who dared speak out against the oppression would find himself cruelly tortured and hung to die on a cross. The religious leaders of the day were more concerned about their own purity and holiness than they were about the needs, physical and spiritual, of the people. Self-proclaimed messiahs were a dime a dozen, and they all offered their own panaceas and miracle cures. But regardless of their offers, the people still suffered. There was plenty of war, poverty, and famine then, and people then could be as cruel and heartless as they are now. And yet the Christmas story reminds us that the good God we worship knows all about the troubles of the world, those then and ours now. And all you have to do is look at the Holy Family itself. The child to be born is going to be born out of wedlock. Mary and Joseph are betrothed, engaged to each other, but not yet married. And they and the child will bear the stigma of illegitimacy in the eyes of society. Jesus will be born poor and homeless, in a stable surrounded by beasts of the field. And in a short while, Jesus will become the subject of a brutal manhunt that will make him a refugee, seeking asylum in a foreign land, while Herod's soldiers massacre the innocent children of Bethlehem. The world then is little different than the world now. And yet the angel could say first to Mary, then to Joseph, and then to the shepherds, don't be afraid. It will be all right. Don't be afraid, for the one coming into the world will make a difference. There will still be cruelty and hatred. There will still be poverty and famine. There will still be war and crime, but there will be a difference. For now God has come to live with us, to experience what we experience, to be one with us and one of us, to die for us, so that our life might be full in spite of everything going on around us. Don't be afraid anymore. Because regardless of what happens, God is with you now, and God will always be with you. Your Emmanuel has come. Don't be afraid. God is with us, with you, with me, here and everywhere we go, now and forever. Nothing can separate us from his love. And because of this, because of Christ coming to us, for us, all will be well. A saint of the medieval church knew this. Her name was Julian of Norwich, and she once wrote these words, "All is well, and all will be well, and all manner of things will be well." This is the truth for those who truly welcome the Christ child into their hearts. So I tell you again, do not be afraid. God is with us. Emmanuel has come.